Hello and welcome to Dr. Yakman's Nintendo Power Checklist. This is for volume 44 through 55, and this is 1993, so I'm going to be covering all the 1993 issues. This is a collector's guide checklist, or video of what's in these issues that makes them, or that it could be a checklist for your collection if you're trying to collect all these and have all of the inserts and posters and stuff that they came with. Now you'll notice at the bottom of this one, this is Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. It says bonus issue! Exclamation point. That's because the newsstand one does not have that, and I do not have a newsstand one of this. This would probably be hard to find because I think, well, I don't know. I haven't really looked for this. I talk about how I have all of the different alternate covers or whatever. Really, there would be hardly any difference with this. It probably looked the same. It may even still have the wraparound, which is what this is. It folds out. There's P. But as you can see right here, it says Super Power Club. If you were a member of Nintendo Power Magazine at this point, you were already a Super Power Club member. They just made that a part of that. And basically, since you were a subscriber, you got extra goodies in your magazine, which is the way it should be. Later in the magazine's life, you'll find that Future Publishing decided that subscribers got goodies and newsstand people got different goodies and different covers, and that's where the alternate covers and all that kind of stuff that makes more of a difference, because they really were very different. But this one, I don't think that it was that much different, other than it probably didn't have this bonus issue and it might not have had this wraparound. It definitely didn't say Super Power Club. But that's the wraparound fold out for the cover for January 1993. Did I say 2003 before? Sorry if I did. 1993. This is the centerfold poster. It's for the Ren and Stimpy show. Now, I think the title of a lot of these games, they get changed. For Game Boy, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say anything about the Super Nintendo version. But anyways, some of these, it's like the work, name of the game is work in progress. So they don't have the name of it completed yet. I want to say that there was a couple of Ren and Stimpy games, but they weren't called, well, they had the Ren and Stimpy show, Nickelodeon, in the title or whatever, but they might have had a different title. Okay, so the back end of that is Mickey Mouse, little walkthrough there. And then there was a comic here. This is only one comic that was made like this. Well, I shouldn't say only one comic. I should say it was a one. And I think that they've done other Mario Wario comics later on, maybe. I can't remember exactly. But this was the first one, and it was just a one and done at this time. So, but yeah, it was Mario vs. Wario. This was right around the time after Super Mario Land 2 had come out and Wario's first appearance. So I like this kid Wario here. It's pretty funny. Anyways, I like this art too. Then there was, this is really what it is. It says the Super Power Club Special Edition. This was all the extra pages that you got, or the extra stuff that you got if you were a subscriber and you were a Super Power Club member, therefore. And they're talking about Super FX chip and 32-bit CD-ROM from Nintendo. Actually, Sony was working with them at the time, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that's a whole other story. Secret zones for Mario Land 2. Just extra stuff that they didn't put in the newsstand edition. But part of that was the Mario Paint Special. It's a little paper. And I think all of this was actually more, it was less glossy paper and more like paper that they printed this on. It was like newsprint paper or whatever. But it has a bunch of sprites that you can make, and like a guide to extra stuff that you can do in Mario Paint. They had already done that before, and I think in subsequent issues they had or volumes, they had had other sprites that you could make. And then, of course, this would later translate to, once Animal Crossing came out, those same sprites that worked. I think they were like 16 by 16 or 20 by 20 or 32 by 32. I can't remember the exact dimensions of the bit-by-bit sprites, but they would give you little pointers on how to draw stuff and blah, blah, blah. In Mario Paint, that, again, would translate over to, later on, grid-type bitmaps that you could do in other games, too, like Animal Crossing. But then there was also this, which I did not punch out, and I did not make, but it's an Arwing. So it's kind of like a paper craft deal. So, and then also there's some stickers, decal stickers, and these were things that you could put over your Game Boy, Super Nintendo, or NES controllers. I mean, cool stuff. And the trading cards continue. So this issue, the volume, once they started the Super Power Club and started really kicking it off more, January seemed to be like the big bonus issues. I think maybe December they would put in extra stuff too. And throughout the year they would sprinkle in extra stuff here and there. But the January one was the one that came with a bunch more extras. So here is February, volume 45 of 1993. It's Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt from the Addams Family. The centerfold on this one was Star Fox. Now you'll notice I don't cover the Nestor's Adventures comics. They're usually only 1 or 2 pages, and yes, they are part of Nintendo Power history and everything. But they're in the issue. They're in the volume, so I am not counting them as a part of the checklist, because they just are in the volume, so, or in the magazine. So it's it's not like an extra. It's not like something that really stands out, like the bigger comics that they put in there, either in like mini comic form that's stuffed in there, or like in a comic book, they turn the magazine into a comic book for a couple pages. So maybe in a future checklist I might, or if I like revise the checklist later on, I might add the Nestor's Adventures, because they're interesting, they're fun, they're definitely for the or not the collector, but the enthusiast of Nintendo Power Magazine. Nestor is a thing. So on the back end of that is Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt, Addams Family areas, and then they started the Star Fox comic. This goes through the rest of the year. So the first comic in January was that Mario versus Wario. Now, from now on, they've got these acts of Star Fox, and just like the Super Mario World and the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past comics in previous years, or in the previous year, 1992. For the launch of Super Nintendo and those games, Star Fox has some like extra stuff that would not be in the game, but for the comic is just extra stuff. And the artist here, Benjamin Itoy, he is really good. It's kind of weird though that they add a lot of, like, they have this extra clothing, and I don't know if they're trying to go for like a Mad Max approach or whatever, but it's pretty good art, and I like it. At the back of the comic, there is trading cards again for the Power Challenge trading cards, the Super Power Club. Next issue, or next volume, is 6 March, which is Buster Bust Loose Tiny Toon Adventures. So. And then also Warner Brothers, there's these Kiwis down here, is Tasmania, based off the cartoon show, which was becoming a big hit. Tiny Toons really turned a lot of things around for Warner Brothers, I think. They had Steven Spielberg and Animaniacs later on, and Freakazoid. I didn't really get into Freakazoid, but there you go. Because Warner Brothers, of course, the animation stuff was just pumping out stuff in the early 90s. They had Batman animated series, all that stuff. Good stuff. On the back end of that, you got Buster, Babs, Plucky. What was his name? I can't remember. Scratch? I can't remember. Then here was Star Fox. This is Act 2 of the comic. And at the end of that, more Power Challenge trading cards. April, Volume 47, 1993, features Star Fox on the cover. Now, I like Star Fox the way he's presented here, and you'll see this in advertisements. And I think they even did it in the original initial commercial. They were very, I don't know, puppety. You know, they were like. I really wish that they would have made like a puppet animation, and they could still do that in the future, because I know that Nintendo is looking to do movies. The Detective Pikachu was huge for them, but they should, even if it's CGI, I would prefer it be real puppets. But maybe they could do something with the Muppet Company. I don't know, but Star Fox would be sweet as like a movie, or maybe a mini movie that goes along with a bigger movie, like like they did for the Pokemon movies. They had a Pikachu short, and the in the beginnings of those mini ones for like the little kids. But anyways, they should do something like that. They've already done stuff for Pikmin. That's of course CGI, but that would have been cooler with like claymation. It'd be cool if they did hand drawn, claymation, CGI, cell shaded animation, stop motion animation, puppets, all of that kind of stuff for all of these different Nintendo properties. In my opinion, that's a whole other thing. I'm going off on a tangent. We don't want to do that. So here's some coupons that you get. Now this was after this is behind the front cover. I'm taking the pictures. I'm trying to take the pictures in the order that they appear in the volume, but later on, power certificates, they would be nearer towards the back end of the magazine. But yeah, there you go. Got some Sunsoft and Tradewest coupons. The centerfold is Double Dragon and Battletoads, or Battletoads and Double Dragon. So on the back end of that centerfold, there is, what was the name of this? I wrote it down on my blog. Let me look at it. It's in the same vein as Joe and Mac, I think. We go here, Nintendo Agenda, and then we'll go to the Power Checklist, which I already made the blog for the written checklist already. So that was Congo's Caper. These are stages for Congo's Caper, which is, I want to say that it's an offshoot because it's also from Data East of Joe and Mac, Caveman Ninja. So, and then this is Act 3, I believe, of Star Fox. Yep, Act 3. And then there's more trading cards at the end of this volume. Next volume, Batman Returns. Oh, man. Here we go. And that is volume 48, and it is May. The centerfold is Bubsy. Love Bubsy. Bubsy the cat. This is from Accolade. I always thought that Bubsy, of course, these are in Claws Encountered of the Furred Kind. They have that title right, but they don't have the exclamation point that's after Bubsy. Every time I see Bubsy, it's usually got an exclamation point behind it. But this was probably the working title or whatever, or like I say, with some of these posters or some of these articles that they have in here, they have working titles or whatever. But here is, this is Batman Returns. These are scenes from that. I've redone on my checklist on my blog, the written checklist. I've changed it. I was trying to be more specific on what those back end centerfolds show, but instead of like what levels they are, because they get complicated sometimes, or I either say it's a walkthrough, or it's the scenes, or it's the levels, or it's stages, or it's a map, or just information in general about the game, as opposed to trying to be specific about it. So I edited that by the way. Here's Act 4 of the Star Fox comic. Here's some Power Challenge trading cards. Just for some more information, I may have covered this in the last video. The red represents the NES. The purple represents Game Boy, and the green represents Super Nintendo. That's how they categorize, or that's how they color coded the systems when they had titles. In the, I think in the upper right hand or lower right hand corner of the pages, they would say the name of the game. But in order to tell if it was a Game Boy, NES, or Super NES game, because they really did have a 3-tier system going there for the first couple years of the Super Nintendo. I mean, they had now you're playing with Power, now you're playing with Portable Power, now you're playing with Super Power. Those are the commercials, by the way, in case you didn't know. Battletoads and Double Dragon. I can't remember the full title of the game, but that's what they put on the cover here. This is Volume 49, which is June. We're halfway through. Jurassic Park, that was becoming a thing. I mean, wow, the 90s were a big thing. Let's just say that. And some of the stuff in the 80s and 90s are still going strong today. Ragnarok World. Maybe that was a different thing. I may have to double check that. Because on the back of this is, I don't know if this is the Ragnarok world that they're talking about. I mean, they show here Battletoads and Double Dragon. Maybe they mean two different games, or the game where they were teamed together. I can't remember. But that's what's on the cover, and that's what's on the back of this centerfold is Battletoads. Mainly seems Battletoads, so maybe it's the Battletoads Ragnarok game. I'll have to look into that more. I just took the picture, and now it's coming to light in my brain that maybe I was wrong about that. But that's what's on the back of that centerfold. Here is the 5th act comic for Star Fox, and more trading cards at the end of the book. This one is a key one. I wanted to take more pictures, but I'll explain it as I go. I don't want to take too many pictures. I just want to take pictures of the checklist items. But in this, there was a little... It wasn't like a built-in catalog, or, it's hard to describe. It wasn't a catalog that was like a separate thing that you would tear out, or like was an added thing into the magazine. It was just a part of it that said you could get, for $50, volumes 1 through 50, and that would have saved me a lot of problems in collecting over the years. But couldn't afford it, couldn't do it. My mom didn't want to do that, but this is a gold cover, and it is the Nintendo Power 50th issue, 5 years. I guess issue and volume are kind of like interchangeable. I try to correct myself every time when I say it's volume 50, but I sometimes say issue or whatever. This is July, and the cover for this is Link's Awakening, which is The Legend of Zelda that was on Game Boy. Fun fact, it's they've got the gray card of it, and they've also got the black card of it. The black card of it has color features for Game Boy Color once Game Boy Color came out, and they call that one DX, meaning deluxe. But then there was also a remake that was on the Switch of Link's Awakening, so blah, blah, blah. These are the first 50 volumes right here. And they would do this later on. Actually, on the very last issue, they had a picture of all of the alternate covers and all of the covers of Nintendo Power Magazine. Well, not all of the alternate covers, but it had most of the ones that were like specifically marketed as alternate covers, not the subscriber versus newsstand covers, but the actual ones that were like, hey, we had 4 covers for this particular game or whatever. So here's all those volumes right there. And also down here you'll see there's some tattoos, Super Power Club. On the back end of those is Bubsy right here. Back into that centerfold, and like I said, there's the you notice they're backwards. They're written backwards because when you put them on you, they're rub-on tattoos or they're heat-on tattoos. I never use them, of course. I wanted to keep them collectible because I'm a nerd. Act 6, Fly Again, for Star Fox Comics, And at the end of the volume again was the Power Challenge trading cards. But also stuffed into the issue was this. Now they've done these before. They're usually attached in there, but this one was like a separate, like paper, black and white, although it has red on here too. Kind of like a newsprint paper index. That's for the first 50 volumes of Nintendo Power Magazine. You could look up a game and see what volumes covered it, you know. Anyways, speaking of which, that also says volumes there, but then it said issues in other places. So now we're on to August 1993, which is volume 51. And we got Vega on the cover there. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Me, I was more of a Super fan. Turbo, people liked it because it was fast, and it also allowed you access to the champions. Well, Super was even better because there was a way to make it faster. It wasn't as fast as the arcade Turbo, of course, but blah, blah, blah. That's a whole other side thing. Here's Rock and Roll Racing, which they had like goofy, like 16-bit renditions of rock and roll tunes, like Smoke on the Water and all that. That was a crazy game. And then on the back end of that is, I believe this is Alien 3. Yeah. So, Star Fox, this is Act 7 comic. And now they move the power certificates to the back end of the magazine in front of the... You got some Konami. Look at this. Kid Dracula. Wow. And it's funny, too, because you'll notice that the coupons are color-coded, too. Purple for Game Boy, that's Kid Dracula. Red for Tiny Toon Adventures 2. And green for Batman Returns on Super Nintendo. And red is NES, Tiny Toon's Adventures 2. Man, isn't that crazy? Anyways, that's Super Power Club Power Certificates. They were before... See the wide end of the page there. That's the back end of the coupons. The Power Challenge trading cards. There you go. And now we're on to September, volume 52 of 1993, Super Mario All-Stars. Now, All-Stars was like, it was a big deal. They redid the graphics for Mario Brothers, I think 1, 2, and 3. And this really started the beginning of like, this is the first time Nintendo did like a collection of these kind of games. And this was on Super Nintendo. And then they also, this is the first time that they brought over an explicitly Japanese game. This is the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2 over to America. And I mean, that was a big deal at the time. This poisonous mushroom. And isn't that crazy? And then speaking of concept, names, there's Mortal Kombat Competition Edition. It wasn't called that. It was just called Mortal Kombat. But whatever. And competition should be spelled with a K. Thank you. No. On the back end of that, there is Rock and Roll Racing. I believe that's Rock and Roll Racing. Let's check the artwork here. I have to be sure. Yeah, it looks about right. Rock and Roll Racing. There's some areas in the game. NHO, Bogmire, New Mojave, and Draconis. Not to do with Exo Squad. And then there's Act 8 of the Star Fox comic. And trading cards at the back again. Super Star Wars. Now they had Super Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, all on Super Nintendo. They kind of flubbed things with the NES. At the time, they didn't... They had these games on Atari 2600 and other systems. Not the same games, of course, but they had Star Wars, let's just say that, represented on there. But the NES, they kind of dropped the ball with it, I guess. And then there were several different publishers that worked on these. There was Victor, which was JVC, Japanese Victor Company. Then there was, I think LucasArts had done some later on, going into the Nintendo 64 years. And now EA has the rights, and Disney has the rights to do whatever they want to with the Star Wars franchise of games. But yeah, there we go. I want to show this too on here. I meant to show this before because I just noticed that on there. Maybe it wasn't on this one. There it is. You've only got one month left. Before they would have these tearaway overwrap covers, but then sometimes they would just print it right on the issue when you were missing an issue. But I forgot to mention that. That is one of those things that Nintendo Power does. But yeah, so they had all three of them. And then they had a trilogy on Game Boy Advance, which were just ports of the Super Nintendo games, but on Super Nintendo. And I had them all at one point. I think Sunsoft even published them at some point, like republished them, blah, blah, blah. So the centerfold in this one was Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana is one of my favorite games, Super Nintendo. It mixes like elements of Final Fantasy with The Legend of Zelda because it was real time, but there was also magic and leveling up and all this. It was nuts. It was great. It's an awesome franchise. Mainly Secret of Mana is the glaring great one in this, though. But, and that's what really started it all. I mean, there was the Game Boy ones before, the Final Fantasy Legends, I think they were called. I can't remember exactly. But anyways, this artwork is exactly like the poster that came with it and the official poster. But then Nintendo Power Magazine, I guess, threw in this weird dragon into it, which kind of is out of place with the artwork and out of place with the rest of the poster. But I don't know. It kind of is a little bit disappointing compared to the poster that actually came with the game when you got it, which I kept, even though I sold the game. And on the back end of this, there is Plock, which is a goofy Super Nintendo game. Here is the Star Fox, the Act 9. And more Power Challenge trading cards. And then you'll notice in the back there it says Nintendo Power Player's Guides. Now, when I joined Super Power Club, they had the Player's Guides. Nintendo Power Magazine, I covered this in a previous video, I'm pretty sure. You got 4. You got the NES Atlas, Super NES, because Super NES was just coming out, Game Boy, and you had Mario Mania. Well, they were starting to do a lot more guides, and then it starts exploding with the amount of guides that they end up bringing out. And when I'm done doing all the volumes of Nintendo Power Magazine, the collecting for that, I'm going to go over the guides too. You know why? Because I have every single guide for Nintendo Power Magazine. I also have a bunch of special issues too, and a bunch of special one-off things for Nintendo Power Magazine, and those will be covered in other videos too. But anyways, I just wanted to point that out because that picture there shows where they were blossoming from the first 4, and then they had a Mario Paint one, and then they had, you know, a Zelda one, and then they had, I mean, they just started going crazy. Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, they started making ones for all of them. Well, not all of them, but all of the really big ones. But there's the Power Challenge cards at the end. Here's artwork that just is not, again, not befitting of Secret of Mana, in my opinion, but it's still cool, and I love Secret of Mana, so there's that. This is volume 54, which is November of 1993. We're nearing the end of 1993. Here is Batman, the animated series. Now, this says for Game Boy, but it was from Konami, and that was, oh man, Konami made good games back then. And Batman was awesome. And there's Arrow, the Acro-Bat. Acro-Bat. So there's a lot of these weird rodents, like because of Sonic the Hedgehog and everything, that everybody was making their like rodent mascot game, it seemed. Cow the Kangaroo, there was Bubsy the Cat, there was, you know. And then there was other things like Spot. It was its own thing. Noid. Just, oh man, I miss mascot games, platformers and stuff. So, and then there's Act 10. There's only 11 acts in Star Fox Comics. And then here's the Power Challenge trading cards again at the end. But also stuffed in this was the very first time that they did this. And you'll see, I'm I matched them all with the ones that they came with. This is the Super Power Supplies catalog. SPSC. This is for fall and winter of 1993. Now, you can look up stuff about the Super Power Supplies catalog, the stuff that they would sell in there. They would sell guides, soundtracks, volume holders, notebooks, pogs, trading cards, toys, collectibles, plushies. Before they were even called plushies, they were just little stuffed animals of, And I mean, this was funny because it was around the time that when Beanie Babies was becoming a big thing. They had to have their own. Well, this was before Beanie Babies probably, but I don't know. Well, I don't know how long Ty has been around or Beanie Babies. I should probably do more research on that before I start saying stuff. But this was my Beanie Babies, which was, these stuffed things that they put in these catalogs, and they were just awesome. But yeah, that was stuffed into a bag when they sealed it and sent it off to people who were subscribers to Nintendo Power Magazine. And then that became more of a thing. Every season they came out with a new catalog, and then certain issues or certain volumes they had special catalogs. And this was stuff that they used to embed into Nintendo Power Magazine, and it was only once or twice a year, but then it became more of a thing, and they had a club, and you could earn points, and you could, oh man, there was a bunch of t-shirts and other clothes. There was all kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff is super duper expensive online now, so check that stuff out. Super Power Supplies catalog items. My cover's a little damaged here because I ripped off the label, or the label got ripped off. But there's Disney's Aladdin. And this is December, volume 55. This is the last volume we're covering in this video. Mega Man X. Speaking of Mega Man transformed Super Nintendo, or on Super Nintendo. They were going for more futuristic and better graphics and stuff like that. Mega Man X was its own little side thing. Now, I'm not a Mega Man fan, but there's a lot of comparisons made between my favorite franchise, Metroid, and Mega Man at that time. And this was, that's cool. On the back end of this, there is the Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions, which is basically Duck Dodgers, if you want to get technical. Marvin the Martian and everything. But, well, I don't know. I never played the game, so I couldn't say, but that's obviously the angle that they were going for. And then there's Act 11 of the Star Fox comic, and more power certificates from Ocean, Game Tech, and Nintendo themselves for some games, some coupons, and there is the Power Challenge trading cards there. I may do another video in the future. I had some of these I've cut out when I was younger and dumb and it wasn't keeping stuff together. And to try to complete my Power Challenge trading cards collection. I believe I have every card, but I need to get technical with that and go over that because there's lists online. That'll be another part of a checklist in the future. I'm also going to go over the Power Supplies catalog, the items in there, because I bought a bunch of items from that, and that'll be in a future video. That'll be a special video after, or maybe during. I don't know how I'm going to put these all out, but right now I want to get a bulk of the volumes done first before I start talking about the strategy guides, Super Power Supplies catalogs, the extra trading cards, and all that other extra stuff that was not the main series or the main volumes of Nintendo Power Magazine. But while we're at this, I didn't cover this in the last video, but I did update my blogger. You go to my blogger and then you go to Nintendo Agenda, which is the section that the Nintendo Power checklist is in, and I updated this today. And as you can see, 1/1/2001 or 2021. Gee whiz. So at the top, I got the introduction, and then above each set of volumes, which I cover 10 in the first video, which is the 88, 89, and then the 90 and 91 I cover in another video. And then I covered 92 last month's video. Or no, 91 there. Sorry, I'm getting confused and ahead of myself. But they're color-coded. You see the green stuff is the comics. The yellow stuff is alternate covers. The red stuff is the cards. The blue stuff is the centerfolds, or posters. And the purple stuff is extra stuff that was added. So as time goes on, this list is going to get more elaborate as I cover more of these. And, you know, that way you have another resource besides the videos to check this out. So thanks for watching the Nintendo Power Dr. Gakman checklist from volumes 44 through 55, which encompasses the whole year of Nintendo Power Magazine from 1993. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next month with 1994.